Hello dear friends, and welcome back to Pillow Pasta. Hold on to your chili dogs, because it's time to conclude Sonic.exe.
This time the level said,
"You can run."
I was really freaked out by now. I couldn't really tell if this was a glitch, or a hack, or some kind of sick, twisted joke, or anything really. But despite my fear of what happened next, I kept playing. The next level looked much different. It had the ground of the scrap brain zone, but the sky background looked like the main menu. It had the dark reddish cloud sky, but it was the music that creeped me out the most. It sounded like Gygas's theme right after you beat Pokey in Earthbound.
Wrong creepypasta, Gygas.
Hey, Joey Jojo!
I also noticed that Knuckles looked afraid, just like Tails did. Although not as much. More rather, he looked a little unnerved. He broke the fourth wall just like Tails and looked as though he wasn't sure about going on. But I made him move anyway.
Onward to death, slave!
He ran down the straight pathway in this dark level. And as he did, the screen started to flicker red static a couple of times. And then that maddening laugh came again. Then, after a few seconds of running, I noticed several bloodstains on the metallic ground. I felt a growing sense of fear again, thinking something horrible is going to happen to Knuckles. He looked nauseated walking down this blood-stained road, but I still kept him going. Suddenly, as Knuckles ran, Sonic appeared right in front of him with those black and red eyes, and then red static appeared again. When the static vanished, showing nothing but black screen with text saying,
Found you.
Sonic found Knuckles already? What was going on? Anyway, red static came again, and then I was back to the level. Knuckles looked like he was panicking, and Sonic was nowhere to be found. And this time that high-pitched squealing from Silent Hill 1's final boss was playing.
Welcome to Video Game Trivia! All pointless story deviations, all the time!
Was this some kind of boss battle with Sonic? I hope to God it wasn't, honestly. Suddenly Sonic appeared right behind Knuckles, in what appeared to be pixelated black smoke. I made Knuckles turn and then punch Sonic, but Sonic vanished in black pixelated smoke before I could even land the hit. That terrible laugh went off again. Then Sonic appeared behind Knuckles again, and I made him turn around and punch again, but Sonic vanished again, laughing. Knuckles was panicking even more. I even felt like I was going crazy. Sonic was practically playing with us. He was playing a sick, twisted little mind game with me and Knuckles.
A difficult boss battle? Stop fucking with my head!
Another cutscene played as Knuckles fell to his knees and clutched his head, sobbing. I felt his agony. Sonic was actually driving us both crazy. And then in a split second, Sonic lunged at Knuckles, and the screen went black with another distorted screeching noise that lasted for at least 3 seconds. Another text message appeared.
So many souls to play with. So little time. Wouldn't you agree?
What the hell? Just what is going on? I started to think that Sonic was actually trying to talk to me through the game. But I was too scared to think that. I was brought back to the main menu. And this time the second file box had Knuckles in the TV screen. His red fur had darkened to a reddish grey. His dreadlocks were dripping with blood. And his eyes were black and bleeding too. And he had a look of sadness on his face. I began to think that these were the actual characters trapped inside those TV screens on the save files. But I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. So I shut off the game and took a break.
A break? A break? dumb shit! Destroy it already!
I took a nap. I wish I hadn't. Because I began having the most disturbing nightmare. I was in pitch black darkness, though I was under the light given off by a lamp that hung above my head. I could hear the cries of Knuckles and Tails nearby. They were saying stuff like, "Help us," and "Why did you give us to him?" and "Run away before he gets you too." Their cries died out as I heard Sonic laugh.
A lot of fun to play with, kid. Just like your friend Kyle. Though, he didn't last long.
I was scared, and looking around for the source of the voice.
Won't be long now until you join him and all of my friends.
I saw him walking towards me, flickering in and out of several directions.
You can't run, kid. You're in my world now. Just like the others.
When he grabbed me, I saw his bleeding black and red eyes, grinning face. I woke up with a fright. After a couple of hours, I decided to continue playing the game. I don't know why, but I had to know. I had to figure out why this was happening. So I turned on the computer and turned on the game and selected Robotnik next. I still thought this was wacky, playing as Robotnik. But anyway, the level title appeared again, and this time it said ... which I found really freaky. This time I was in some kind of hallway. Didn't really look like it was from any classic Sonic game.
Oh no! We can't spend 2 whole sentences describing how it looks like another game? I feel naked.
The floor was shiny and checkered. The walls were a dark greyish purple with animated candle lights, and a few dark bloodstains here and there. And there was a dark red curtain hanging above the top part of the screen. Every 12 seconds or so, that red curtain sways very slowly. But whenever you're playing the game, you can barely see it move. The music was oddly pleasant. A piano playing a rather sad yet peaceful song. But I knew better. This was a song that played in The Hill, Act 1. Only it wasn't in reverse.
This way it sounds strangely a lot like Do You Want Me Baby by the Human League.
Robotnik didn't look entirely nervous like Tails or Knuckles, but he did have a suspicious look on his face, as if he was just a bit paranoid. He did have a little animation when I just let him stand there. He turns his head from left to right at least twice, and then shrugs at me as if he has no idea what he was doing. Even though I was scared out of my mind about what was going to happen, I had Robotnik continue onward. He did his usual running animation, you know, the one when you beat him at the end of the classic Sonic game and chase him. Then I stopped at a long flight of stairs leading downward. Now I was nervous. Even Robotnik seemed unsure of himself, though I pressed onward. As I led Robotnik down the stairs, I noticed that the walls had gotten darker and more reddish. The red torches are now an eerie blue. Then we landed on another hallway. This one was longer than the last one, or at least it felt like it. And then we headed down another flight of stairs. This one was much longer. It took at least a full minute.
What are you selling us this place? Get to the point!
And then I heard that awful Kefka laugh again. And then the music slowly faded until it was quiet. As it did, the walls turned more dark red, and the torches were black flame now. When Robotnik landed on the third hallway, I noticed now he looked really creeped out, although he tried to hide it. I couldn't blame him. I was scared too. Suddenly Sonic popped right in front of Robotnik the same way he did Knuckles, and then red static. The red static lasted for about 15 seconds, and then it showed me the most unpleasant image. The image showed a hyper-realistic of Sonic standing in the darkness, where you can see only his face, while his head and torso faded into black. And when I say hyper-realistic, I mean, he looked so real you could actually see the lines in his blue fur. As if you could actually feel the fur if you touched the screen. His face. Oh God. He had the most horrifying smile I'd ever seen. And that's saying something considering I saw the image at the start of the game. His eyes were wide and black and once again crying blood, which also looked hyper-realistic.
Stop saying that. It's stupid.
And there were two small, glowing red dots in those black eyes staring right at me, as if staring into my mind. His grin was wide and demonic. It literally stretched to the sides of his face like a Cheshire cat. Except Sonic had fangs. Very sharp fangs. Much like the werehog's teeth, except more vicious looking. Somewhat yellowish, and from the looks of it, he had stains of blood and small bits of flesh on his lips. As if he'd ate some animal. I stared at that gruesome image for a good 30 seconds, never taking my eyes off it. I felt as though he was looking at me, smiling at me. That face, it just took 10 seconds for it to etch itself into my brain for good. Then the screen flickered with red static again 3 times, and on the 3rd time, I heard the Kefka laugh. Except this time it sounded distorted. Demonic, even. It went back to the image again. Except there was text with it this time. Although it was messed up. But it was pretty much one of the most horrifying things I've looked at since I had this game.
I am God.
It was when I read that message while looking at Sonic that it hit me. I realized right there and then, this Sonic was a monster. A pure evil, sadistic, all-powerful, nightmarish, demented monster. And all of his victims, including Tails, Knuckles, Robotnik, and possibly Kyle, are just his toys. And the game is the very gateway into his chaotic, nightmarish world, and the very hell his victims are trapped in.
Insert some joke about playing Sonic 06 for all eternity here.
Suddenly, in an actual split second, I screamed as Sonic lunged at the screen, screeching loudly with his mouth wide open to an unnatural length, revealing nothing but a literally sparring abyss of pure darkness. Before the red static came again. This time much louder and distorted. So loud that it hurt my ears. I yelled. I grabbed my ears as the red static screeched for a good 7 seconds. It then stopped. And showed nothing but black screen. As I sat there, staring straight at the black screen, one last text came up.
Ready for round 2, Tom?
I looked at the text in shock and confusion.
Confusion mainly, considering my name is Steve.
I looked at Tails, Knuckles, and Robotnik, and I cried a bit. I pitied them for the agony they were going through. They were forever trapped within the game. Forever tormented by that horrid hedgehog, and always will be. The computer then shut itself off. I couldn't turn it back on no matter what I did. I sat there for maybe 25 seconds, horrified by what just happened. Sonic is the very embodiment of evil. He tortures people who play his game in more ways than one. And then when he gets bored, he drags you into the game. Literally drags you into hell, where he can play with you always, as his toy. I can't get the game out of my computer. I think it's stuck in there. But at least I managed to turn it back on now.
Was it expensive? You know, that train ticket from Stupid Town?
After I sat there for 25 seconds, I heard a voice right behind me, like a whisper.
Try to keep this interesting for me, Tom.
I turned around to see where the voice came from. And when I saw, it made me scream. Sitting on my bed, staring right at me, was a Sonic plushie, smiling with bloodstains under its eyes.
A plushie? A plushie? Well, that was Sonic.exe. And it's pretty shitty. I find it quite difficult to grasp how this became as popular as it did. I'm thinking it had something to do with maybe some of the catchphrases, or maybe this came a bit early as far as gaming pastors go, but it's pretty rubbish. I mean, things like Ben Drowned, and these have a lot more effort put into them and are a lot more creepy because of it. Particularly because Ben Drowned, for instance, is already based on a rather creepy game to start with, so that probably helped. But yeah, a lot of copycat pastors came from this because they just sort of just stapled on the .exe or some kind of file attachment name at the end of a video game, and it sort of became a lazy way of making a pastor. But yeah, so it's a really rubbish story, not really deserving of its fame, but what can you do? It's popular. But regardless, thank you for joining me for this episode of Pillow Pasta, and we'll be bringing you some more ridiculous ones later on. But for now, sweet dreams. Gotta go fast!